When was the last time you actually tore that area and knew how to take care of it?
When was the last time that it went from like to 10 centimeters? Because that's what the heck it feels like, right? Like we need to give.
So, Dr. Julie, if I were to talk about pregnancy and we were on trimester 1, trimester 2, trimester 3, is that all of pregnancy? Is that all of being a mom?
Absolutely not. I think there's a fourth trimester, and I feel like that goes on for at least 18 years. Right? That you can understand that, okay, I had surgery, but even you moms, like you don't give your body enough time because you look at the outside, well, those sutures look healed. Like the inside has a lot of healing to do. It was 9 months of growing this thing. But from like the exterior, when people look at us, they just see us as, well, everything is good. Meanwhile, like things are screaming.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Skip Wyss, and as always, I have my beautiful, wonderfully radiant co-host, Dr. Julie Wyss with me. How are you doing today?
I'm well.
You look really, really pretty. You look wonderful in green.
That's your color.
Yeah, it is my color. This is like my favorite green. You look absolutely radiant.
Good color.
You look beautiful today. Thank you for wearing that. You look excellent. I'm in blue and purple.
Nice. Blue. Yeah. Good colors for you.
Yeah, thanks. So, Dr. Julie, if I were to talk about pregnancy and we were on trimester 1, trimester 2, trimester 3, is that all of pregnancy? Is that all of being a mom?
Absolutely not. I think there's a fourth trimester, and I feel like that goes on for at least 18 years. Because let's be honest, raising kids is tough.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Because the fourth trimester takes forever. It seems like we're stuck in it. We're still stuck in it with our daughter.
Nobody talks about the fourth trimester of the difficulties of raising the baby, right? Everybody's the baby. Nobody talks about mom.
Oh hell no!
Right?
Well, and if she had the baby, she's done.
No, and that's it's amazing when we have a wonderful vaginal birth. But from like the exterior, when people look at us, they just see us as, well, everything is good. Meanwhile, like things are screaming, things that you never thought that you could feel or that your body could do screaming. Certain things. Yeah, like you're going through so much. And, at a certain point, there's postpartum depression. And the frustrating thing is nobody talks about it. Or when you have a question, right, because you have to put on this face of, you're doing this new, life perfectly, because we live on social media and you have to be smiling and look like you have it all together, and which I think is changing, which is really, really great. But sometimes it's still really hard to ask the questions of like, should my body be doing this? Should I still have pain? Should it still burn? I'm still bleeding. I have blood clots. Nobody talks about it. And as a resource, if you would, follow up with your provider, lots of times it's, oh, those are all normal. Well, are they normal, or has it been normalized because it's common and there's actually an issue?
I think if you guys haven't noticed, there's a running theme with a lot of our podcasts of commonality versus normalcy. And just keep listening, because eventually we will convert you all over to, just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal, and it should be wrote on your forehead.
Let me tell you, I don't want to be normal.
No, I don't want to be normal either.
I don't think anybody wants to be
But I also
normal.
don't want to be chalked up in commonality.
Yeah.
And understanding like what happens post-birth, because as a husband, as a partner, I don't know what the heck's supposed to be going on right away. I don't know if all of these different discharge things that are happening and the wonderful, awesome, like crazy underwear they give you and like pads.
So
and,
your first child, if you were in a facility, I don't know, maybe it happens at a home birth, maybe the midwife brings it along, but like you go to the bathroom and then there's this bottle that's just sitting there. Like, what are you supposed to do with that squirt bottle? Nobody tells you what you're supposed to do with it. Yeah, not that kind of hydration, right? So it's like, these little, like, it sounds like it's so simple and it should be simplistic. But if this is your first time, having a baby, and like that's not talked about in the book of what you're supposed to do with that squirt bottle, but let me tell you, that squirt bottle will save your life.
Yeah, and that thing is number one. I've never the irrigation system that they use for your nether billows. I've never seen a top like that before that like sprays out 3 at once. It's pretty remarkable. Let's talk about post-birth mom care, because that's one of the most important parts of this is wound care.
Yeah,
and taking care of your area. Because when was the last time you actually like you tore your vagina? Like, it happens during birth, and that's really the only time it happens. And sometimes it doesn't happen during birth. I would say half the time, depending on the provider and the work you've done pre-birth. But when it does happen, when was the last time you actually tore that area and knew how to take care of it?
When was the last time that it went from like to 10 centimeters? Because that's what the heck it feels like, right? Like, so like we need to give ourselves love.
Oh my God.
But if I go back to it, right? I mean, unless you had a cesarean, right, that you can understand that, okay, I had surgery. But even you moms, like, you don't give your body enough time because you look at the outside, well, those sutures look healed. Like, the inside has a lot of healing to do. It was 9 months of growing this thing.
I would say that our cesarean moms are actually faster to get back to things when they shouldn't, versus our moms that have had a vaginal delivery, because the pain, from what I understand, is different. The recovery is different. I mean, your vagina feels like it just went through a boxing match.
Yeah, but it's abdominal surgery.
Yeah.
But even no matter how that baby came out, the thing that I'm trying to, like, it's internal, so we can't actually see it. Like, if we had a wound on our hand, we could see how it was healing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we would give ourselves, like, if there was a way for us to like open the window and see what it looks like inside. But I mean, we don't give ourselves the time to heal. And then what happens is that we start to feel good and then we overdo it. Yep. And that just sets us back even further than if we would have just at least 6 weeks tried to not do anything and recover and heal. It's just going to allow us to get back on our feet sooner. But I understand, like, we're super moms and we need to do all of these things and we wear all these hats. And from the outside, like, to prove to your significant other or your spouse or family that, like, well, you look fine. And meanwhile, you're like, no, it's all burning. And I feel like every time I sneeze, like I'm peeing myself, or it just feels like my undercarriage just feels so heavy. Like, it just feels heavy and like everything's hanging out, which again, nobody talks about. That's not normal. It's not okay.
I've never heard you say that. And so I'm glad you did, because I think there's a lot of moms out there that feel that way and don't even know how to tell their partner that. I think if you would have come and tell me, feels like my vagina is going to fall out, or something's going to fall out from behind my vagina, being a healthcare person that I am, I would have known something was wrong.
Yeah, but that's
if
even
I
hard
didn't have that education, I wouldn't know what to say.
But at that time, it's like you don't even know what the heck is happening. And you're like, well, everybody has babies, so this must be what normal. It's supposed to be like. And that's where it's, when you have that heaviness, like, when I'm in my class with the women that I teach postpartum with pelvic floor work, it's, well, what was your 6-month checkup? What was your 6-week checkup like? Well, we just came in, we sat down and we talked. So half of these women aren't having an actual internal exam to assess things, but there's even the handful that do have that, and they're not being checked for a prolapse.
Yep.
And I feel like 80% of the female population, if you've had a baby, like, you're walking around with a prolapsed uterus and you don't even know it. But you're like, well, yeah, every time I have intercourse, like, it's painful.
Super painful.
Or like when I cough or I sneeze or I giggle, I can never jump on a trampoline, that people just joke it off. It's, I leak a little. Or if we constantly have this heaviness, this fullness, like, those are all really severe signs that need to get addressed.
Wow. Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. And I was I was going to make a Dr. Seuss rhyme and say there's so much more than the pelvic floor,
Yeah.
because that's a thing too, is that you will notice when we're talking pelvic floor work, and I don't want to dive way down this, but medical providers will just concentrate on your pelvic floor. They will just look at weighting. They'll do internal work. They'll all of
That's
this
the only
stuff.
tools that they have.
But there's so much more than just the muscles that line your pelvis. It's an entire encased structure from your diaphragm down, including your abdomen, your abdominal walls, your erector spinae, like all of these muscles that make up this area besides just the pelvic floor muscles or the vaginal wall muscles. Like there's so much more to that, and we're going to get into that on another podcast. And you did last year on a pelvic floor podcast that went crazy. So go back and watch that, because the insight you give there is amazing. Now, I will say that a little lifesaver after you give birth is that little pad looking deal that you can shove with ice chips. Do you remember that? Like you had it for both births. It helped cool areas, but
weird.
A lot of midwives will recommend freezing maxi pads with water in them and witch hazel.
I would say witch hazel is kind of one of those saviors. It's like you don't ever talk about maybe washing your face, but that's usually another use for the witch hazel.
Witch hazel, nice. Witch hazel is great for inflammation. It's great for pain. It does an amazing work. In fact, my sister is a certified nurse midwife in Southern Iowa. And actually part of her post-care packs that she does for her moms is she makes up a bunch of these witch hazel pads that moms can just switch in and out. It's one of the cool things that my sister Emmy does. And she works in a medical system for a hospital down in Iowa. But she got flack originally from these birth providers, these healthcare providers down there for giving these moms these things. And she's just like, this helps. This is major for them. This is how they can fight the inflammation, kind of calm down their birth canal and their vaginal tract, and really help ice the area, provide some coolness. I mean, most women don't think about putting ice on that area, but at that time of trauma, it's needed.
It's a trauma, or it's like the cooling. I know that there's the spray foams and the gels and things. It's just to have that little, take the sting away a little bit and
fight infection,
anything.
Help just get you around. Now, Dr. Julie, we talked about pelvic floor. We've talked a little bit about rehabbing and helping that area out, that birth canal out. Now, let's talk a little bit about postpartum depression in our mamas, because this is part of the fourth trimester that is really overlooked, is checking in on mom, making sure that mom's doing okay, but even more importantly, recognizing the signs of baby blues versus postpartum depression versus just sleep deprivation.
And I don't think this is if I'm going to get postpartum depression.
It's when.
I think it's a definite when, and I think it's also the severity, right? If we maybe had some instability or maybe some issues before pregnancy, right? Pregnancy or postpartum is definitely going to heighten those things. But again, this is one of those stigmas that it's like, oh, that's not me. That's not going to happen. It's going to happen. It's understanding. And even the most educated, like that was me. That was my situation. Like I know that it's a thing, but it's just like, again, sometimes you can't put it into words. It was just, I feel funny. Like I don't feel like myself. And so if it's already like I don't know, or I don't care, or if your spouse is noticing those things, that's not a quick, okay, we need to do something. It's recognizing. And I think that's the biggest thing of, and if your partner says it to you, you're probably going to say like, no, I'm okay.
Yep.
But then the partner needs to just really just to keep close tabs, I think is the biggest thing.
The partner kind of knows.
Right.
And they don't know how to address it with you. And one of the biggest things that the partner will know is that in 8 weeks to 10 weeks, and you've gotten the green light that it's okay to have intercourse with your spouse or partner again, and you don't want to, like you want nothing to do with that there is a lot of different chemical stressors that are taking a toll there. And that is a good sign of baby blues and postpartum depression, which can be, from a spouse perspective, a partner perspective, something that we're finding off, but we don't know how to address it with you. I don't know how to come to you and say, hey, Jewel, Like, what's up? Like, you don't seem like yourself. And you're going to say back to me, I don't feel like myself. And then we're both lost. We're both sitting here in this canoe with no paddle, wondering why the hell we're in the middle of this lake and we can't get back in. Mm-hmm. And all I want to do as your spouse is support you and help you. And I can't. And understanding, like, where do we go from here? How do we help moms with this? And placental encapsulation is something that was talked about for a while. Like, we've been in practice for 16 years. Mm-hmm. Our first 10 years in practice, that's all people talked about was encapsulating placentas. Now it's kind of went by the wayside a little bit.
And I think it depends on how healthy your diet was,
exactly.
Right? So that's where that comes in. But I think with that, right, there's different supplements. Mm-hmm. There's herbals that can help,
yep.
Teas. Again, I think it's just being able to also acknowledge, and then from the female perspective, okay, my spouse now sees me. I think he understands. Maybe now that can open up that communication, or for that spouse just to understand, okay, I need to maybe step it up and like, dang, I was. Well, what more can you be doing? And so maybe it's just designated quiet time mm-hmm. for the mom. Maybe it's additional chores. Maybe it's getting her out of the house. Maybe it's, if it's a girlfriend, or maybe getting back to church, or somebody just to be able to talk to. Mm-hmm. We can go back to a podcast of what was that love language.
Yep.
To really kind of, okay, let's speak into that, because so many times this is a brand new stage. Mm-hmm. This is an entirely new life with responsibilities and requirements, and that in itself can be super, super scary.
It can be.
And so maybe it's hey, I found this play group, or just of looking for those supportive angles. Is family a stressor, or is that supportive of understanding those things and stepping back into that doula role of protection? Because that's also what the mom needs, is somebody else to maybe start to drive that boat, steer that boat a little bit, to allow mom to finally get maybe a clear head and to think and to process.
Well, if she's a mom that's hella organized, likes to have things in a very orderly fashion, and if she's been in that house for 4 to 6 weeks and there's no order, mm-hmm. it's driving her absolutely insane. And she may need just a day for you to take that child, or even have somebody come over to help support and allow mom, and get off mom's back. Don't say to her, you need to rest, you need to sit down. If her mind's going crazy, she needs to do what she feels she needs to do. And if that's sit there and organize a closet, do the dishes, like things that are bugging her, and I'm not saying like womanly activities, just what's bugging her in her household, that can help clear up a tremendous amount of stress, because she finally feels like she's getting her hands back onto her organization. And to a mom, that's a big deal, because you nested before you had that baby. You were trying to get everything as organized as possible. You came home, and 4 weeks later, your husband took over, and shit hit the fan.
Well, it's not like you come home from the hospital mm-hmm. or for the birth facility, right? And you came home with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you come home with tons of
stuff.
stuff.
So already, like, the sanctuary that you prepped is coming home a mess.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then carving time out for moms to rest. Mm-hmm. Helping them get a good night's sleep. Dads out there and partners, honestly, step your game up a little bit here. Like, nothing drives me more nuts than when a mom says, well, my husband needs his sleep, so I don't wake him up. Wake his ass up.
I call throwing the flag for that, because and that's where, I know that I'm spoiled.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean spoiled?
But it feels like I was, because nobody else does this. But it's part of you both made the baby. So mm-hmm. why is it one-sided on when it's nighttime and bedtime and when baby wakes up and diaper changing and feedings? Like, that should still be
a group activity.
That's a group effort for that. And to me, there was never a question of if it was right or wrong. I expected it. Yep. And not that you didn't do those things or live up to those things, but we both worked.
I think I did a pretty good job.
You did an amazing job. And so what that looked like for our situation, baby would wake up at night and cry. You would go and get the baby, bring the baby to me, and I would feed, you'd go back to sleep. But then I would feed on one side. And then when we were done, you were a really great burper for the babies. And so I would wake you, I would wake you back up and you would burp the baby and then you would change the diaper.
Yep.
And then bring baby back to me. You'd go back to sleep and then I would finish up on the other side and then put baby back down. And to me, like it breaks my heart sometimes when I see these moms and they're barely holding it together because they feel like they'd be selfish if they would wake up their significant other to help.
Yeah. Well, I would tell you this right now out there, dads, to be real blunt. You want a better sex life? Help your wife out at night when she's not sleeping. Like, your wife being exhausted and can't hold it together is why she's in adrenal fatigue and why she doesn't want to have intercourse with you after she has the baby 8 weeks later. I'm serious.
I know. I'm just thinking like we could literally tie all of these topics back to sleep, but like this could be a whole podcast on better sex life. This is what you need to do.
This is what you need to do. And I'm not saying we burnt the bedroom down. But what I'm saying is that if your wife's exhausted, if you're not contributing, and you know, guys, I understand it. Like we're out there, we're doing stuff. Our wives may be home for 6 weeks, but trust me, they're not just sitting around doing nothing. Like, and you know what? This is why they make coffee, and this is why they sometimes have to give you a stimulant so you can get to work the next day. Like you drink some coffee, you may drink something like green tea or things like that to get yourself up and going, but support your wife. And get up with her and help with that. And that ties you into your child's bonding as well. And there's going to come a point where your child doesn't want anything to do with your wife. And you're going to have to be up with them all night anyways. And this is what you signed up for. If you didn't want this, then don't do the process to create the life in the first place. Like this is why we're together and this is why we have our relationships that we have. And I just want the moms to be healthy, but I want dads to be healthy too.
It's a two-person job.
It's a two-way job. And we just need to communicate and support each other so we can get that done properly. And it was a tough road, but we did it together. And that's what makes it incredible because if you can get through raising a baby in those first 3 months to 4 months, you can do anything together as a couple. If you're doing it as a couple. If it's one-sided, it's going to feel one-sided your entire relationship and your marriage isn't going to be the best. It's not going to be fun. It just isn't because there's going to create animosity at some point. And that's how we deal with the starting of this fourth trimester. And this has been a fun one to talk about because I really wanted to know still how you felt during that time. It's important to me, even now, because that helps me be a better provider to my moms when they come in and to our moms and actually help a better understanding for the dads.
It's understanding, but it's being able to be heard and then knowing that you're seen and you're not doing it alone.
And that creates that trust. And the trust in the relationship is what solidifies and makes us healthy. Now, everybody, we're on a mission to get over to 1,000 subscribers this year. And we just ask if you would please share this, please like it. In fact, if you've done that, or if you're planning on doing it and share it again, please mark that in the comments below. Shared, liked. Let us know.
I would love to know for if you're in your postpartum period of what was a lifesaver for you postpartum. Maybe you have a gem that our listeners need to know or to hear about. We would love to see that in the comments below.
And every time you share this, you get entered into a drawing at the end of the month for a gift card to Target. Who doesn't like Target? Every mom loves Target, and we're going to give one out to you. And we don't care if you're nationwide. We will ship it directly to you. Every time you share it, we're going to add an entry in for you. And then at the end of the month, we'll draw that name out. And if you win, we'll send you that Target gift card. So everybody go out there, get it done. Have an amazing week. Bye, everyone.